But I think if you put yourself in the shoes of an explorer, Cindy, and
Mm.
you go into the unknown, right? Which is what we are doing. We are just going into
Yes.
the unknown, believing
Yes.
that there is something that we can discover. So we are
Yeah.
explorers in the true sense of the term. An explorer doesn't know that there is land. So normally, if you want to come to India from Spain, you would travel from the east, right? What did this he do? What did he do? He goes to the queen and he says, "I want to go from the west." And the queen says, "What?" He says, "I know if the world is round, if the earth is round, then there must be India on the left, on the west." He doesn't know it. And then he sets sail. And if all of us can put ourselves in the explorer's, mindset and say, I know there is some truth over there. I am a coach, right? And I know there are some truths that I have not explored yet. Is there some truth in design thinking that I can explore? Is there some truth in biomimicry that I can explore? Is there some creativity? So I think the whole thing is about, as a coach, can I explore in the service of the client?
Hello, everyone. Wonderful to have you all join us again, especially since we did not have the Masters webinar last one, and looking forward to seeing everyone again. Yeah, thumbs up. I'm happy that we got a program today. So Shiva and I are going to dive into the topic. And the topic for today is biomimicry and drawing from the wisdom of the universe or the environment around us. And we're also going to do a deeper dive into creative thinking, lateral thinking, some tools and techniques on how we can help as coaches, how can we increase some awareness for ourselves and better serve our clients individually, team coaching, and of course for coaching for the greater good. And we can't avoid today but think and deep dive into the greater good, because the topic falls, or the topic is within the realm of how we show up for the greater good, the individuals within the environment. So Shiva and I are going to first dive into creative thinking. And coaches, we'd love to hear your contributions on the chat as we go along. And just to frame it, creative thinking or creativity belongs in the definition of coaching. Partnering with a client in a thought-provoking and creative approach to maximize personal and professional potential. So creativity belongs in the definition of coaching. Today, we're going to expand it in multiple layers. And Shiva, may I invite you first, to introduce yourself however you want to, and we'll dive into the topic.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everyone. I'm, as usual, delighted to be here. I live in Madras, Chennai. I used to be practicing as a lawyer in the Madras High Court. Then I worked in Tata Consultancy Services for about 20 years. I now teach. I teach creative thinking at IIT Madras, and I'm also a certified coach. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Cindy, for being such a gracious host.
I'll take both.
Yeah. So when I thought about what I should start with today, there's one line that has been bugging me for a very long time. It's a line from the scriptures. The question, it's a dialogue between two people. The question is, what is it by learning which I can learn everything? So that's the question asked in the dialogue is, what is it by learning which I can learn everything? So there must be something very central, very focused that we can learn. And learning that, we should be able to learn everything else. So that is the beginning of the journey that Ujjwal, I, and Cindy were thinking about when we said we must do this program, this webinar to try and connect creative thinking, biomimicry, design thinking, systems thinking, and all that. There must be something very core that we learn, that we learn everything. So that's the genesis of why we are here. I just thought, I can explain the context as to what started off this thinking, Cindy.
That's quite useful. Coaches, do you want to ask or say anything about that? What is the very core to our curiosity in learning? Why do you think about that and type into the chat? Shiva, you and I will dive into creative thinking.
Sure. So while speaking to Cindy before the call, and we said, how do we organize this call? What we will do is we will talk about several things, but we'll talk about everything in relation to how it can help coaching. Right? I can start with the creativity tools. I especially want to speak about two tools which can help coaching in creativity, which is essentially about what understanding what the coachee is trying to say. For instance, I don't know how many of you, I'm sure many of you have heard about the six thinking hats. And the six thinking hats, by description, it's a beautiful tool invented by Edward de Bono. The six thinking hats are six hats, right? White hat for information, yellow hat benefits, black hat problems, green hat creativity, red hat feelings, and the blue hat for organizing the thinking. So white hat is information, yellow hat is benefits, black hat problems, green hat creative thinking, red hat feelings, and the blue hat for organizing thinking. Normally, from a sequence point of view, the black hat, the difficulty hat, is followed by the green hat, the creativity hat. For instance, supposing Cindy and I are speaking about a picnic. So we can ask, what is the black hat about the picnic? The black hat about the picnic is that it may rain on that day. The green hat immediately is you could take an umbrella. Therefore, when you organize your thinking, when you organize the hats in such a way that you help the coachee structure his thinking, that's all it is. It is simply to help the coachee structure his thinking in order that he expresses himself in a structured way. So one of the tools I would recommend for coaching in the large baggage of tools that we have could be the six thinking hats, Cindy.
Coaches, okay. There is a question for you on the chat.
Yeah. So Debbie, thanks for the question. Yeah, it's more over a period of time, you will forget the color of the hats, and what the hat stands for will be more prominent to you. The color of the hats is simply to help you understand and learn the hats in a more powerful way. That's it. So that's a tool that one can use, Cindy. The other tool that we can use is something that's a favorite of when I have a presentation. Can I put the slides for that?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
One of the things that I recommend in coaching is how do you generate ideas? Now, normally when you generate an idea, what do you do? For instance, I say, Cindy, give me some ideas on the picnic that we're going to next week. So in a normal classroom full of people, they'll say, Cindy, you have any ideas for going for a picnic next week?
Yeah, I'll be thinking about what I'm going to wear first.
Okay. Any more?
And then, of course, and the food that I'm going to take, and, and any activities we would do, and I'll pick a nice spot, and
yeah. So
that comes to mind. Yeah.
Jagdish is saying entertainment and all that. Now, what are you and Jagdish doing? You are generating ideas, what is called the top of the head ideas, right? Now, is there a way to generate more ideas? Now, there's a lovely word Edward de Bono uses called the word deliberate. Is there a deliberate way to generate ideas? Can you sit down at the desk and tell everyone around, don't disturb me for the next 5 minutes, I'm generating ideas? So there are some very lovely tools for generating ideas, and I want to be able to talk about one tool for generating ideas. Can I speak about that, Cindy?
Yes, but that's quite invitational, right? When we want to give ourselves the permission to do some
Yes,
brainstorming or idea generation, meaning we got to consciously do that, right? We got to consciously close a door, create space for ourselves.
correct. So the word deliberate helps you understand that it's okay for us. It's okay for us to be able to actually move away from saying ideas are always something that happen when you're taking a shower, when you're walking. You're dismissing that notion of ideation, and you're saying that it's okay for me to use step-by-step methods in order to generate ideas. What happens when you do the step-by-step method is when you teach someone step one, step two, step three, step four for generating ideas, you start becoming creative in spite of yourself, right? Even if you don't want to be creative, at the end of step four, you get ideas. So that's the power of deliberately generating ideas. And
So
I
it
want to
becomes
offer.
organic. Sorry, I'm talking here. So after a while, it becomes organic. It becomes a
Exactly,
part of the
exactly,
thinking.
which is what has happened to me now, and I'm not able to get away from it.
I can
So
imagine also if that's done in a team. I could imagine the benefits, yeah?
yes, and this comes under the green hat in the six thinking hats process. Yes, Yorim, yes. Find out the goal, what you take for granted, drop what you take. Brilliant, yes. Now, Yorim, in the second one, what you take for granted, you can, for instance, restaurant, I can say restaurants have no food, new ideas. Restaurants have no waiters, self-service. Restaurants have no tables, stand and eat. Restaurants don't charge for food, pay what you want. So everything that you take for granted about a restaurant, you can keep dropping. At the end of I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you get about 50 ideas and becomes a problem. That becomes a problem too, because you have so many ideas now, you don't know what to do. But it's I think the principle here is, can you break the patterns? That's it.
Yeah, it's like wild imagination. You know the concept of wild imagination. When you drop what's limited and you allow yourself to go wild, like
Correct.
when you take away the commonality or the association and
Yeah.
you allow yourself to go wild, new ideas can come up. Wild imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the creativity tools, and maybe we can go to.
The next one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we talk a little about biomimicry now, Sandeep?
Yes, of course. And you were going to do some steps on design thinking, right?
I'm sorry.
You were going to do some steps on design thinking.
Yeah. So design thinking and biomimicry is what we said. So
Yeah.
so design thinking is almost similar. There are 5 steps in design thinking. So I'll just maybe quickly pull it out,
Sure.
and we will end with biomimicry.
Okay.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
So essentially, design thinking are these 5 steps, Cindy. The first step is, I have a challenge. How do I approach it? It's called the discovery stage. The second step is, how do I interpret the problem that I have? The third step is, what are the ideas I have for the problem? The fourth step is, I have this idea. How do I prototype it? How do I build that idea? And finally, how do I test the idea? So, how do I discover a problem? There are 3 ways that we discover a problem. There could be several ways, but the way I use is empathy. Put yourself in the shoes of the other person and find out, look for the problem from his point of view. The third is to speak to the person. When you speak to the person, you try and elicit the problems that he has. The third step is observation. So simply sitting in a place and finding out, looking around you and looking for problems. Once you have understood the problem, you define the problem. And then you say, how do I find out what is the real problem, which is the step two? How do I interpret what I have learned? This is what I have learned from the client. How do I interpret it? The third step is this is where you use lateral thinking, what we just described. What are my ideas that I have in order to solve that problem? The only thing that is very unique to design thinking is that before you implement the problem, before you implement the solution, you build a small prototype, you find out whether the solution works, and then you implement it. So this is the design thinking process. So I mean, I think most of us are aware of it, but I thought we could pick up a lot of lessons for coaching from the design thinking process, which is why I thought it's useful to bring in the design thinking perspective in coaching, especially in the way we ask questions. For instance, in design thinking, we are trained to ask frame questions, different types of questions, Cindy. One is a broad question, very broad. How do I solve the problem of hunger in the world? Is a very broad question. A narrow question is, how do I eat fruits every day to solve my nutrition problem? You've already got the idea in the question. The third question is, how do I balance nutrition and fruits and rice and things like that? So, when we spoke the other day, we were saying that in coaching, this step 4 and 5 are not very prominent, right? Most coaches may not recommend that you do the prototyping and then implement the solution that you have. Is that right?
I think, yeah, experimenting, fixing, fine-tuning is part of growth, the growth of a coach, of a client, right? Facilitating client growth. When a client comes back and says what doesn't work, or they can fine-tune what's working
Yes.
to make it better, then I think that's your first step, the evolution of something.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, correct. So what Natarajan is saying, Siddhi, very well said. Thanks, Nataraj. So when clients come back and with their experience, it is prototyping. The only thing in design thinking is that once you have a prototype, you go and test it with different users and say, this is my solution. Will it work? Will it work? Will it work? While in coaching, it may not happen. Yes, brilliant.
Yeah.
And Jagdish, just to add the empathy thing, right? Now, what I have found is empathy. Yes, empathy is putting yourself in someone's shoes. But the most difficult thing in empathy is taking off your own shoes, Cindy. It's the most difficult thing in empathy. So in campus, we encourage our students to go and put the shoes of the security, the doctor, the librarian, everyone. But the most difficult thing is that the students have to stop being a student and start being the security guard. So the minute you stop being who you are, then the real empathy has to start.
Yeah. So you're saying empathy for self also comes in?
Empathy for?
Self, for ourself.
Exactly, correct. So stop being you and be someone else. Maybe it's, and I see, like I said, when I started this webinar, I said, the line is, what is it that we can learn? What is the one thing that we can learn which encompasses everything? What is it that I can learn by which I can learn everything? So if we can learn that there are aspects of design thinking in coaching, aspects of creativity in coaching, and now aspects of biomimicry in coaching, aspects of system thinking coaching, then coaching becomes a joyful experience, right? There's so much in coaching to draw from instead of just
So Shiva, you mentioned and we spoke earlier on about lateral thinking.
Yes.
So what is lateral thinking?
What is lateral thinking?
Yeah.
Lateral thinking is the ability to generate ideas deliberately, not depending on top of the head ideas, but using specific tools for generating ideas. So, for instance, right now we learned break the pattern. There are other tools like alternatives, generating alternatives, challenging. There's a lovely tool called challenge, right? When you challenge something, for instance, I challenge that this watch should have a strap. So can I challenge? There's one more very nice tool called random word, wherein you use one word in order to generate more and more ideas. It goes on and on, Cindy. But the world of creativity tools and the world of idea generation is completely unexplored yet. I'm only asking for it to be explored. That's all.
Mm. So while you were talking, I was doing some thinking or reflecting on something, and I think at one moment you caught me a bit off guard too. So in order for there to be this idea generation during coaching, for me, there has to be this moment of silence or reflection or a pause. Yeah, like a conscious, what you call deliberate moment. So that pauses, silences, reflections is a part then of lateral thinking, where you need to take a moment
Yes.
and figure something out and then go into something more expansive.
Very true. Yeah. So yeah, I think what you're saying is that moment of quiet, of saying, okay, let me now quieten down and let me
Mm,
deliberately, instead of having all these thoughts coming to my head, let me deliberately sit down, use the steps in a very deliberate way, and then try and find out if I can use many of these ideas. Because at the end of those 4 steps, you only get the ideas, Cindy. You still have to implement those ideas, right? So that's the
yes,
challenge in creativity. Yeah.
yeah. We
That's
got
what we
something?
should also say in many times. So we are just simply trying to draw from the creativity tools, from design thinking and all that. Maybe
Mm,
maybe we can very quickly go to biomimicry and find out what we
yes,
can draw from there, right?
absolutely. Let's go for it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Many people may have already seen the biomimicry slides from last time, but is it okay if I just
Yes,
uh,
yes, go for it.
just to set the context, Cindy? Yeah. So biomimicry is a practice that learns from and mimics strategies found in nature, right? So essentially, that's what biomimicry is: looking at nature, finding out the strategies of nature, and translating the strategies to solve human problems. And I very quick last, I already did this last time, but I'm at the cost of repeating myself. The difference between learning about nature, learning from nature. Learning about nature, all of us have done in school, biology and all that. Learning from nature, we start on looking at that tree. We tell ourselves, I'm looking at an engineer, I'm looking at some a tree that has done the following things or is doing the following things: humidifies air, leaves capture solar energy, limbs create structural support, and trunks move water against gravity. Now, how is the tree doing it? Now, instead of simply saying, how is the tree doing it? If I'm able to find out how the tree is doing it and imitate that, if I can actually make water go from ground level up to the top of my building using the principles that the tree uses, then that is biomimicry. And today there's lots and lots of advances in biomimicry where industries are sprouting up saying, let me use this strategy in order to solve a problem. So by definition, biomimicry is looking at the strategies of nature, using those strategies in order to solve problems. But because of the shortness of time, I'm going to. So essentially, we're talking about nature as model, measure, and mentor. So model is when we are imitating the technology of nature. What is the ethos of nature? Ethos is that nature creates conditions for everything around it to thrive and survive. The reconnect in biomimicry is by somehow we have lost our connect with nature. And can we all connect back to nature in order to say that we are nothing but a continuation of nature? There is no separation between we and they and things like that. But I'm more interested in what I spoke to you that day, Cindy, about the. So if you don't mind, can I skip to that portion
Yes,
first?
go,
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
So this is the what is called process of biomimicry to go from problem definition to problem implementation. I'll come back to it some other day. But what I spoke to Cindy the other day, and she said that I must share with all of you, is there are some life principles that nature has. When nature makes design, nature uses some principles of design. For instance, one of the principles is nature uses only the energy it needs and relies on freely available energy. The second principle, nature recycles all materials. The third principle, nature is resilient to disturbances, right? Now, I want to talk about this a little more. So, anyway, the other principles are nature tends to optimize rather than maximize. This is brilliant, okay? Because I mean, instead of building more and more and rooms, can we optimize instead of maximizing? Nature provides mutual benefits. I help you, you help me. And all these, I can go on and on, but I have to sort of limit. Nature uses chemistry and materials that are safe for living beings. Nature doesn't use toxic chemicals. Nature runs on information. How does the plant know when to catch the fly, right? How does the lizard know how distant is the prey in order to catch the prey? On information. And nature builds abundant resources in. So for nature, anything that's abundant is like gold. Nature never goes very far away to make resources, uses whatever is around, and finally nature uses shape. Now I want to, because of the time, there's one thing I want to talk about which could be useful in coaching, which is nature is resilient to disturbances. Now, when I say resilient to disturbances, it talks about how we can recover after a disturbance. And I can talk all day long about the disturbances I've had and my inability to recover, right? But I'm saying if my nature can do it, I can learn from nature too. So now what it does is, how is nature resilient? Nature uses four principles of resilience. One is called diversity, other is redundancy, decentralization, and self-renewal and self-repair. What is diversity? Nature says that there are several things that will take care of nature when nature is in trouble. So diverse things, not just one, several things around nature will take care of nature when nature is in trouble. Redundancy, more than one organism, more than one aspect of nature will help nature recover. Decentralization means that mechanisms are scattered throughout the, not just in one organism. Many organisms together come together to help nature. And finally, self-renewal. There are several organisms that come back, regenerate. For instance, there is this ability of nature to repair itself, right? So these are the four aspects of nature that nature uses in order to be resilient to disturbances. Now, what is the example for it is this. This is where, and this is something that you will fall in love with, because look at that, right? In Yellowstone Park, large fires swept across Yellowstone Park. The lodgepole pine forests were able to grow back. How? How are the lodgepole pine forests able to grow back? The pines have two types of cones. Regular cones that open to release seeds in the normal condition, and special serotinous cones that are sealed shut with resin and open only when exposed to the high heat of fire. Which means after the fire is finished, when the ground is hot, that is when the seeds burst open and the forest regenerates. Now, going back to those three conditions of resilience, diversity, because there are two types of cones. There are two cones handling this. Redundancy, if one cone doesn't work, the other cone works. And regeneration, the ability of the forest to come back to life. Now, the question is there something that we can learn?
Very interesting. So there's one of the cones that would immediately release a seed and would begin to grow.
Yes. So the first cone is the normal cone, Cindy, that it bursts open, trees start. But a second cone has been built by nature. Nature knows that I may get destroyed. And unlike us who succumb to issues, at least me, I'm not sure everyone, but at least me, I'm prone to succumbing to my problems and saying there's nothing else I can do. But nature says, no, I have a second cone, and this cone will open only when there is a when the ground is very hot. And Cindy, we just talked about one principle. We just talked about, for instance, can I just show one more slide?
Yes. Wait. I'm going to build on this idea that you're sharing. So one is immediate, and the other one, how we can draw on from it, is my linking to this word thought-provoking. So when we go deeper into ourselves and give ourselves a space to do more, obviously the seed is inside and waits for a particular moment to burst and release.
Yes.
So when we give ourselves more time to think, something more shows up.
Brilliant. And the conditions, right? When the condition is
yes.
is
so we also got to give ourselves a condition, which means maybe take out all the drama and feeling stuck from ourselves, and here something new emerges.
Correct.
Okay.
And,
you go on, Shiva. I'll just think while you're thinking. Go on.
No, I'm happy that you're saying this, because, for me, and this is how we started this whole program, right? We're saying, is there, for instance, I know Columbus is not the most popular person to speak about, but I think if you put yourself in the shoes of an explorer, Cindy, and you go into the unknown, right? Which is what we are doing. We're just going into the unknown, believing that there is something that we can discover. So we are explorers in the true sense of the term. An explorer doesn't know that there is land. So normally, if you want to come to India from Spain, you would travel from the east, right? What did he do? What did he do? He goes to the queen and he says, I want to go from the west. And the queen says, what? He says, I know if the world is round, if the earth is round, then there must be India on the left, on the west. He doesn't know it. And then he sets sail. And if all of us can put ourselves in the explorer's, mindset and say, I know there is some truth over there. I am a coach, right? And I know there are some truths that I have not explored yet. Is there some truth in design thinking that I can explore? Is there some truth in biomimicry that I can explore? Is there some creativity? So I think the whole thing is about, as a coach, can I explore in the service of the client more and more? I think that's
the value of curiosity. It has no boundaries, right?
Yes.
I encourage coaches to be a curious explorer.
Exactly. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. It's okay not to discover. But the whole journey of exploration, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Shiva. I know you got another slide.
No, that's I just thought, I'll help the. So the final, this is what it is. This is the final slide. This licensed under from Biomimicry 3.8, where it talks about what we just discussed is in adapting conditions. So incorporate diversity. So each of these are strategies that nature uses. But the main thing is life creates conditions conducive to life. How does nature thrive on its own and at the same time allow other organisms to thrive too? How does nature manage that? These are the principles of nature. Be locally attuned, so leverage cyclic processes, use life-friendly chemistry, be resource efficient. So can we learn from each other? Just like we saw connection between coaching and resilience. Is there a connection between coaching and evolving to survive? Is there a connection between coaching and self-organized, to build from the bottom up, combined, modular, and nested? So this is what I thought I'll share with the participants, so that we know that all of us together can explore something together. I don't have all the answers, but I know, like Columbus, that answers exist. Right.
That's potential, right?
I'm
Now
sorry.
we're talking potential.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. I'm waiting to look for comments from the participants. But very nice.
Are we looking at the ladder of inference?
No, I'm sorry. We are also going to try and find out the ladder of inference is something that I know that most people will know. We are also going to do this. There's something called the systems thinking habits, Cindy, that you're talking about. Last week, I discovered the ladder of inference, and I thought, we could talk about it. So I was, for me, it was a revelation when when I saw the ladder of inference, and I said there must be, because we are all prone to making assumptions all the time, right? And normally I look at the information and experience around me. From that, I noticed that there is something that I noticed something. But the most important thing is the third rung of the ladder, Cindy, where I add my own meaning without any basis. For instance, in a meeting, there's a lady, let's assume, who shrugs her shoulders. Now, I add meaning saying because she's shrugging her shoulders, she is not interested in the topic. And that is where I think we make mistakes, right? When we add our own meaning and assumptions to an action that somebody is doing. And then I develop the beliefs on that meaning, and I act finally, which may not have any substance at all. So I thought the ladder of inference is a powerful way of asking, what are my assumptions, and testing my own assumptions. Do I have the ability to test? So the way you test your assumptions, you climb down the ladder. You say, what is the action I'm going to take? I'm going to report my colleague to my boss saying she's not interested. But before I take the action, can I ask, what are my beliefs about that person? The third is, what is the meaning I have attached to her? What is the assumption I have about her? The fourth is, what did she do? She simply shrugged her shoulders. Yeah, exactly. Now imagine. Now, and I learned it last week. I said, I need to share it with you.
Yeah, it could just be she's tired of sitting the whole day and a bit tired, right? Why not?
Yes.
Mm.
So I just thought, I know that the time is almost up, but I just thought I'll share these four aspects that I'm learning with you. The creativity tools, the which is the six thinking hats. How can it be used in coaching? Lateral thinking, the different steps, step one, step two, step three, step four, in order to generate ideas. And then the design thinking process, empathy and questioning and observation and prototyping and testing in order to use it in coaching. And finally, of course, the biomimicry, the lessons from nature that we can learn in order to use it in coaching, in order to find out how we can make coaching more richer, and finally, of course, systems thinking.
Yeah. Shiva, when every time you and I talk about design thinking and systems thinking, obviously linking to systemic approaches in coaching, and this wisdom of the environment and how we use it and draw from it is just brilliant.
Yes.
My morning has to start with some quietness, outside. Yeah. Just fueling energy that's free and there, and a lovely connection point. And I said that with regards to everybody has their own special moment with the environment or nature, and there's something they draw from it. And whenever I talk to you, the topic is more expanded and thought-provoking, and I want to go away and think more about it. And thank you for that, for always just bringing a bit more into the space where we can do something more thought-provoking.
Thank you. Yes, true.
Yeah. And, coaches, if you or anybody on the program, if you want to know more, she was starting a coaching program with biomimicry, design thinking, systems thinking, and there's a lot more included in that program than what I'm saying. But if you want to know more, just contact the office. I think Yamini is on the call. She can put in details of who you can contact. Because there's something special on this program. You can also attend a few sessions just for learning something more. And for that, you'll get CCEs that you can use for renewing your credentialing. But so we thought we'd open this program up because coaches that have already credentialed may not want to attend a full program. But we have the program structured in a way that you can attend a few sessions as to your preference, if you want it just for learning purposes, learning some tools, or if you want it for CCEs. It's a full thorough program, inclusive of foundation, advanced, and team coaching. But it also has something for the coach or the participant that just wants to learn a bit more about a particular aspect of design thinking, systems thinking. There's a curriculum out if you want to have a look at it and see if there's anything you want to attend to. Let the office know and we'll make a plan. It's the first time we are doing something like this. Of course, even for us, it's a test and a fine-tuned process. I can assure you a lot of design thinking has gone into it in the background.
Good one. Nice one.
Yeah.
All right.
We're almost at the end. Is there anything else anybody wants to say or ask?
Some nice comments about nature is the biggest teacher and life creates. I love that sentence, George. Life creates conditions conducive to life, right? How everyone survives, right? Everyone lives.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Shiva, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful being with you again.
Absolutely.
Next month, we're going to do some live coaching. So we'll see you next month. And Shiva, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure always interacting with you.
Thank you. And I'm only saying, let's break all the patterns that there are.
Yeah, even we breaking patterns on this program. So yeah, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.